You can still sail into a sunset, but in 2026, owning the wrong hull could leave you financially stranded. 5 boat types, once staples of safety and adventure, have been quietly blacklisted by the AI algorithms that now rule marine insurance, wrecking dreams regardless of surveyor approval. The result is a growing list of vessels you can buy but cannot insure, no matter their condition. What exactly makes these safe boats untouchable, and who decides? The answer reveals a system obsessed with invisible risks and past build years, not seaworthiness. The stakes are not just paperwork, they are the difference between freedom and a 6-figure liability. Let us uncover how the rules changed and what boats are next. Before 2020, the path to marine insurance was straightforward. A surveyor with decades of experience would walk the decks, tap the hull, and issue a report. If the survey came back clean, the insurer followed suit. Approval hinged on human judgment, sometimes flawed but always personal. Brokers and owners relied on relationships, not algorithms. That era is over. By 2026, the industry operates under a different authority. Insurance companies now feed thousands of data points into machine learning models, letting code decide what qualifies as a risk. Human underwriters review the outputs, but the algorithm sets the boundaries. The old handshake has been replaced by a digital gatekeeper, indifferent to stories or reputation. The shift began quietly after a series of costly claims and catastrophic weather events in the early 2020s. Insurers faced mounting losses and turned to automation to protect their balance sheets. Instead of weighing each vessel on its own merits, the new systems scan for patterns: the year a boat was built, the materials in its hull, the absence of digital maintenance records. Any gap or anomaly triggers a flag. For boats built before 1986, the 40-year wall, the default is suspicion. Age alone can be enough to prompt a decline, regardless of surveyor endorsements. Actuarial tables now drive every decision. Aggregate risk outweighs individual stories. An underwriter explains, "We run the numbers. If the data says decline, we decline." Even spotless survey reports struggle to override the algorithm. Owners of older boats find themselves caught in a system that values quantifiable risk above all else. The result is a market where insurability no longer follows from seaworthiness, and where the spreadsheet, not the surveyor, calls the shots. A monitor flickers with columns of redacted data, each line a vessel's digital fingerprint. The model runs its analysis in seconds, sorting by age, hull material, and gaps in maintenance records. For boats built before 1986, the system does not wait for a story. It defaults to declined unless ironclad proof is uploaded. Every field is a gate. Missing HIN, decline. Unknown tank material, decline. A survey older than 12 months, decline. The model's logic is clear but unforgiving, chaining rules in a strict hierarchy. If a vessel passes the age check, it faces a material scan. Ferro-Cement, balsa-cored, black iron tanks, each triggers a separate risk branch, drawing from lost databases and flagged claims. The decision tree rarely bends. Human underwriters review only the edge cases, and even then, overrides are scarce. Statistics from 2025 show that less than 5% of flagged declines are ever reversed, usually when owners submit costly specialist reports, thermal imaging, core samples, or X-rays. Most files never reach that stage. The majority are processed straight through, with the model stamping "declined" in red and pushing the case to archive. Underwriters describe the process as efficient but impersonal. They sit beside the model's output, tasked with justifying exceptions, not making the rules. The workflow is designed to eliminate ambiguity, relying on data completeness over personal experience. In this environment, even a spotless survey is just another attachment, useful only if it fills a gap the model recognizes. The spreadsheet is the gatekeeper, and the override button remains out of reach for most. The next step in the chain is set. Each flagged risk will face its own material stress test, with the algorithm's verdict already looming. Ferro-Cement hulls, once hailed as the answer for affordable blue water dreams in the 1970s, now trigger instant rejection in the underwriting model. The story begins in backyard sheds and driveways, where amateur builders layered steel rebar and chicken wire, then coated it with hand-mixed concrete. The result is a hull that looked solid, but hid its secrets deep inside. Over decades, water seeps through hairline cracks and reaches the steel core. Rust expands in silence, breaking apart the concrete from within, a process known as spalling. There is no easy way to see this damage without destructive testing. X-rays and ultrasound scans exist, but few owners pay for them, and most surveyors lack the equipment. The risk is buried, invisible until a failure happens at sea or during haul-out. Insurers see a pattern in the data. Claims linked to ferro-cement hulls spike as boats age past 40. Repairs are nearly impossible. Once spalling starts, the structure cannot be restored. Underwriting models flag the word ferro-cement and auto-decline nearly every case. Industry data from 2025 points to a 99% decline rate for these hulls. Even a clean survey report rarely moves the needle because the AI algorithm demands proof that cannot be supplied. Non-destructive testing is rare, expensive, and often inconclusive. The result is that owners face a closed door, regardless of maintenance history or upgrades. The spreadsheet treats every ferro-cement hull as a ticking time bomb, uninsurable by default. The next material on the blacklist faces a different kind of hidden threat, one that soaks in from above and eats away from the inside. Balsa-cored hulls, once celebrated for their strength-to-weight advantage, now sit high on the insurance blacklist. The problem hides beneath the glossy gel coat, a layer of end-grain balsa wood sandwiched between fiberglass skins. In the 1980s, performance cruisers like the Landfall 38 and the Valiant 40 relied on this construction to save weight and boost speed. But balsa, when exposed to water, acts like a sponge. Every unsealed deck fitting, every missed maintenance log, becomes a potential entry point. Over years, moisture travels through the hull, turning the core to pulp and weakening the structure from within. For underwriters, the risk is statistical and severe. Claims data shows that wet core repairs often exceed the market value of the boat. Recoring a hull can run $15,000 to $20,000, more than many cruisers from the 1980s are worth on the open market. Faced with these numbers, the algorithm does not hesitate. Any mention of balsa-cored triggers a decline unless the owner can supply hard evidence that the core is dry. This is where technology enters the surveyor toolkit. Moisture meters alone no longer satisfy insurers. Now a thermal imaging camera becomes the arbiter. A surveyor scans the hull, searching for temperature differences, delta readings that reveal hidden pockets of moisture. If the scan shows a uniform dry core, some underwriters will reconsider, but the burden is high. Thermal scans must be recent, clear, and performed by a specialist. Even then, many files are still declined, the model citing insufficient evidence. For owners, the message is clear, without proof from advanced imaging. A balsa-cored hull is guilty by default. The spreadsheet does not care about intent or effort. It cares about the numbers and the cost of risk. Teak decks on Taiwanese cruisers from the late 1970s and early 1980s once carried a mark of prestige. Brokers praised the craftsmanship, and buyers saw value in the gleam of oiled planks underfoot. But beneath the surface, the math tells a different story. Each teak plank is fastened with stainless screws, about 2,000 per deck on a 40-foot cruiser. Every screw is a direct channel for water. Over time, even careful owners cannot prevent leaks. Water seeps along the threads, saturates the plywood or balsa beneath, and triggers rot that spreads invisibly for years. Repairing a failed teak deck is not a matter of swapping out a few boards. The process means stripping all the planks, extracting every screw, drying the subdeck, and then rebuilding, often at a cost that exceeds the market value of the entire vessel. Broker spreadsheets from 2025 show deck refits on a 42-foot cruiser regularly top $60,000, while the same boat lists for less than $50,000 in a strong market. Underwriting models compare these numbers and reach a simple conclusion. The risk of constructive total loss is present even when the boat never leaves the dock. A broker explains that buyers ask for a quote, but the moment the survey mentions a teak deck, the insurer walks away. It is not about seaworthiness, it is about the cost to make it right. For the algorithm, every screw is a data point, every repair estimate a warning flag. The model does not weigh the romance of teak or the pride of ownership. It calculates the odds and stamps the file accordingly. When the cost to fix a deck exceeds the value of the hull, the spreadsheet closes the door. The next risk buried deeper inside waits for its own reckoning. Black iron fuel tanks, hidden deep beneath the floorboards of Whitby and Irwin-era cruisers, have become the ultimate insurance red flag. These tanks, installed in the 1970s and early 1980s, are now pushing 50 years old. Out of sight and out of mind, they rust quietly under layers of teak and cabinetry, corroding from the inside while owners remain unaware. When a surveyor finally uncovers the problem, the real cost comes into focus. Replacing a buried tank means gutting the interior, removing cabinetry, bulkheads, even the galley. The only way to reach the tank is with saws and crowbars, turning a classic yacht into a construction zone. Yard invoices for a full replacement routinely hit $50,000 to $60,000, with no guarantee the new tank will not face the same fate in another few decades. A yard owner lays out the numbers, labor, demolition, custom fabrication, and the painstaking rebuild of the interior. The median replacement cost now stands at $55,000, often more than the boat's resale value. But the financial risk does not end with the repair bill. Insurers see these aging tanks as environmental liabilities. A single leak can send hundreds of gallons of diesel into the bilge, triggering pollution claims that run into six figures. Underwriting files are thick with flagged cases and decline stamps. If a boat survey cannot produce recent X-rays or proof of a new tank, the model defaults to decline. The risk is considered inevitable, not hypothetical. For owners, the buried tank is a financial anchor, too expensive to fix, too risky to ignore. Insurers have made their position clear: unless the tank is proven new, the policy is out of reach. A listing agent opens the broker platform and scrolls to a familiar warning. The replacement value field is blank. For orphan boats, one-offs, defunct brands, or obscure models, this is not a glitch. The algorithm leaves the value empty because there are no recent sales, no comparable listings, and no reliable parts supply. Without data, the system cannot calculate a payout or even set a premium. Policies require an agreed value, but when the field reads unknown, the underwriting process grinds to a halt. Agents describe the effect as a liquidity freeze. The market for these boats dries up overnight. Potential buyers cannot secure insurance, so lenders will not approve financing. Sellers watch as interest evaporates, even with aggressive price cuts. A broker points to the screen and says, if the replacement value is blank, the policy won't bind. The listing just sits there. The impact goes beyond the spreadsheet. Owners who need to sell, whether for retirement, relocation, or financial strain, find themselves trapped. The boat is technically seaworthy, but it is uninsurable in the eyes of the algorithm. Every week, the listing lingers, storage fees and maintenance costs accumulate. Some owners try to prove value with receipts, survey reports, or testimonials, but the model only accepts hard comps and parts availability. Without those, the case closes with a single line: no appetite. Replacement value: unknown. This is how an entire segment of the fleet becomes invisible to the market. The spreadsheet does not care about memories or intentions. It cares about numbers, and when the numbers are missing, the answer is always no. The next story belongs to those left holding the keys, locked in by a system that won't let them out. A couple stands in the boatyard holding a folder thick with paperwork. They paid cash for their Formosa 41, poured their savings, and spent hundreds of hours on a full refit. New rigging, fresh varnish, every system rebuilt. When the last coat dried, they reached out to insurers. The first carrier replied with a redacted email that said, "Declined, vessel age exceeds underwriting appetite." The next carrier asked for a recent survey, then cited the Teak deck and declined again. 3 more submissions, 3 more denials. Each response arrived within hours, stamped with digital signatures and algorithmic language. Not one asked for a phone call or a conversation. The couple uploaded invoices, survey reports, even photos of the dry bilge. The answers never changed. Their marina required proof of hull insurance to renew the slip. Without it, the Formosa had to be hauled and stored on land. A storage bill arrived at the end of the month, $420, due immediately. The boat sat on blocks, mast unstepped, sails packed away. They listed it for sale, but every interested buyer asked the same question: "Can I get insurance?" Without coverage, no bank would finance a loan. Offers dried up. The couple now pays for a boat they cannot launch, cannot sell, and cannot insure. Each month, another invoice arrives. The folder grows thicker with decline letters and receipts. The asset that once promised freedom now feels like a financial cell, locked by the logic of a system that never learned their names. In 2026, a computer decides who gets to launch, not the builder, not the surveyor, and not the dreamer. As AI underwriting locks out entire fleets, risk isn't just managed, it is defined by the spreadsheet. The boundary between ownership and liability keeps shifting. For every would-be sailor, the new voyage begins not on the water, but in the data. The question now, who gets left at the dock?